Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this Wirework flower ring. And this is what it looks like. So I call it a flower ring because I'm using a flower bead, a flower gemstone. This is quartzite. But otherwise I'm going to teach you how to make the band and how to set the stone into it. So it's a little bit like a prong set type technique, except this stone does have a bead hole in it, so I will be using that just because of the extra security. But you can use this technique to set small cabochons as well without any hole. And this is how it sits on the finger, and it's nice and secure. It's not going to go anywhere. And like I said, you can use this for other stones. It doesn't have to be a flower ring, other shapes and other types as well. So if you want to learn how to make that, then stay tuned. And these are the things that you're going to need. You'll need your wire. In this case, I'm using copper coloured wire. You can obviously choose to use whatever colours you want and work with whatever wire you've got. I'm using a 0.8mm, and that's a 20 gauge. And then I'm using a 0.4mm, which is a 26 gauge. And I'm using these two different gauges for different purposes. And then you'll need your bead stone. In this case, like I said, I'm just using the flower gemstone. But like I said, you can use this technique for other types of beads and shapes as well. And then you'll need some tools. You'll need a wire cutter to cut your wire, and then some flat nose pliers. And then here I have a little extra tool. It's not essential, but it's just a nice little extra thing to finish off your piece. And this is a wire rounder. So this is to finish off the very ends of your wires when you cut them, to make them less sharp and just finish them off nicely. But it's optional. If you don't have one, it's not essential. It's just a nice little tool. So I'll get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is get some wires ready. And you need to get your 0.8mm out and cut some lengths off of that. So what you need is 3 lengths, each of them about 20 centimeters. They don't need to be that long for this ring. So this is going to be the base of our ring. This is what we're going to be wrapping around and forming the prongs at the end as well. So get these wires ready. And then the next thing is you want to get your 0.4mm wire out. And I just like to leave it on the reel when I work with it, just so you don't risk running out. And then we need to start wrapping around the 0.8mm wires to start off forming the ring band. So we'll start off to get 1, just to start off the wrap, and we'll wrap around this 3 times to anchor your 0.4mm wire to the 0.8mm. So wrap it around 2 or 3 times, like so. So it's now attached and anchored, and it's not going to come off. And then you need to start adding in your other wires. So you get another one, put it on this side. You can start on the other side, it doesn't matter. And then really with this weave, you don't have to start all the way on one end. You can push it up towards the other end if you want to, because then you have a lot less wires sticking out here that you're fighting with when you're trying to wrap. Because what you can then do as the weave builds, you can push it down your wires. And then the little tail I've left is just to be able to kind of keep hold of it, use that to hold your weave in place as well. So at this moment we have the wrapping wire coming down. We start off with the first wire we did, coming down on this side and around to come back up. So we need to follow that way, wrap it around, and then when we come back around, we need to go around both wires to incorporate this new wire into it. And we do that twice, like so. So again, the first few wraps we did on the single wire was just to anchor in the 0.4mm wire. This is where we actually start off the weave properly. So you wrapped around twice on both, and then come back around and wrap around twice on just the middle one again. Down in between, like so. This is basically going to be 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 weave that we're going to do. So we've now wrapped around the beginning one, the first wire on its own to anchor it, wrapped around both twice, and then around the single one again twice. So now we need to add in the last wire, and we need to put that on the other side of the one you added before. So basically the one you anchored on to begin with is going to become your middle wire. And what you can do is at the end here, just start splaying them out a little bit, just gently, so it'll make it easier to weave your wire in between. So we just wrapped around the middle one twice, so it's coming down. Then we need to go back around and onto the other side and wrap around those two, the one you just added and the middle one, and then come down in between the middle one and the bottom one. And again, wrap around that twice. Like so. So you now have in the middle wire, you have it anchored, then wrap around these two twice, wrap around the middle one twice, wrap around those two twice. So now we need to go back to wrapping around the middle one twice again. Middle one on its own. Like so. And now basically the weave is starting to take shape. And what you want to do is when you're wrapping your 0.4 mil wire and you're weaving, as you're coiling it around the other wires, make sure your coils and your wrapping is nice and tight, and you push it down so you're not really left with any gap if you can avoid it. So I'm just going to try and show you again a bit more up close. So we just wrapped around the middle one twice, and now we need to move back to the bottom two and wrap around them twice, so these two. So you alternate between the bottom two, the middle one, the top two, the middle one, the bottom two, the top, middle two, and the top two. So that is basically going to be how a weave is going to work. So go around like you're going to go around the middle again, but then go around both. Like so, and then come down in between those two. So then again, just wrap around the middle one. And we're going to wrap around the middle one again twice. Making the coils nice and tight. Like so. And then back to wrapping around the other two twice. So kind of the top two. So this is how you're going to do it throughout, and this is going to then form the ring band. It's going to go around your finger. So that's twice. So then back to the middle one again. Twice as well. And make your coils nice and tight throughout. Like so, and you just keep going. Back to the bottom two again, wrapping around twice. Like so. And then down in between those two you just wrapped, to wrap around just the middle one on its own. And then back up. and you just continue like this, and for about the size that you need your ring band to be, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I've now continued weaving, so I have a long enough weave to fit the size my ring band needs to be. So what we need to do now is, my wire is still attached to the reel, but now we can cut it off. And you need to leave a bit of a tail because you just need to use it to attach your stone as well, if you're using a stone with a hole in it. But you don't need that much, just maybe 20-30 centimeters if that. It's just enough for you to work with, really. So we've now cut that off, and your weave should look something like this if you've chosen to do this one. So now we need to start shaping the ring band. To do this, I'm going to get my ring mandrel out, and I'm going to use that to determine the size and also to help get a nice shape on it. If you don't have a ring mandrel, you can just use something else that's roundish and got a good size for the size you need the ring to be, like a marker pen or something. But if you have a ring mandrel, then just use that. And then I'm going to determine roughly what size. I think I want this to be about an N or an O or something. So I'm actually going to just go a little bit above that, so just start off with a slightly smaller size and then start shaping it around my ring mandrel. So your wires meet up on the other side. Like so. And then what we need to do now is we need to basically intertwine the ends of your base wire. So to do this, you can just take it off if you need to. And what you need to do is every other one intertwine in between each other. So like so. So a bit close up, so maybe you can see it a bit better. You can tell every other one is intertwining in between each other. So that's how you need to get your ends of your base wires to sit. And then we're just going to put it back on the ring mandrel and just resize it again. Press it together. And then, because I went up here on a smaller size and I shaped it, and you'll see it falls down to about an N or an O. So that's why, because it kind of springs back a little bit. Like so. And then take the tails of your point 4 a bit out of the way. And then what we need to do now is, you can do this while leaving it on the ring mandrel. Make sure that you stay with the right size that you want it to be. So what we need to do now is secure this in place. And by doing that, we do that by taking the outer 2 wires. So on this side is this one, on the other side is the one coming the other way. So the 2 outermost wires, we need to just do one at a time. Take that underneath the others and around to the other side. And pull it over. And then do the same with the other one. Underneath the other 2, around to the other side. Like so. And make sure they're quite nice and tightly pulled, because this is what's going to help hold the whole thing together. So you have something that looks roughly like this. So now the actual ring band is done. So now what we need to do is get to a point so we can attach our stone. Now what you might notice is that these are kind of starting to form into a point where we can use them as prongs to help keep it in place. And that's basically what we're going to be doing. So we're just actually going to put these into position where we want roughly where we want the prongs to sit. And now one thing, what you'll see is because we started out with 3 of the 0.8mm wires, 3 lengths of that, we've ended up with 6 prongs. Say if you're using a different kind of stone, I would recommend you can just keep at this. You can use 6 if you need to. It all depends on the shape and the type really. For me, because I'm using this one, if you can see it's got 5 petals, and in between each petal it's got a little groove in it. So I only really need 5 prongs to be able to sit this. So I'm just going to sit about 5 into position. Figure out roughly where I want them to be. You can use your stone, kind of place it and see. I want to make sure that one of the points is even going up, and then like the flatter edge is even on the other side. So I need to be like this. So I need to move my prongs just a little bit. So I'm going to move this over to the side and use those 2 at the top, and this one on the side. Actually I think, because I need to get rid of a prong, so I think I'm going to get rid of this one, so just push that a bit to the side for now, and then I'm going to use this one to get over to the other side here, and then this one down at the bottom, and this one further up to the side as well. So ignore this one, and this is roughly how I want my wires to sit. So we're just going to work with these 5 ones for this particular stone, but like I said, if you need to, just use all of them, because we don't need to in this design. I'm just going to get rid of one of them. So now they're roughly into position. So what we need to do now is place our stone into place. And to do this, I'm just going to take it off my mandrel for now, just while we're doing this. And I'm going to use my 0.4mm wire, the tail that I left, to fasten it. If you have a stone, or obviously it's not a bead then, but if you have a stone or a cabochon that doesn't have a hole in it, you can just place it how you want it to sit and then use the prongs to fasten it. Like basically I'm going to show you in a bit, but if it does have a hole, you might as well use it for the extra security. So since mine does, I need to then thread it onto the end of my 0.4mm wire, and I just need to check that I'm putting it on the right way, because obviously, so it ends up sitting the way I planned it to sit regarding the prongs. So I'm putting it on, feeding it down and checking, and that's the right way. So it's going to sit like this. And then what we need to do is get right in, basically in your ring band, right at the end, so right underneath your stone, where your weave is ended. Actually, what I'm just going to do, because we still have the other tail left, so we'll just get rid of that first, because we're done using that. So get your wire cutters, cut as close as you can, and then you can just press your end down so it doesn't catch on anything. So that's out of the way. So we got rid of that tail, so that's fine. We'll use this one coming from the other side through the bead, and then put it down through your ring band, because you should have a bit of gap there, a bit of space to go through. So I'm going to go down through the middle and pull it through gently. Like so. And then make sure that the stone sits nice and even, really, because then you want to come back up again on the other side, but still in the middle, still through your ring band, So you've gone from the other side, gone through your bead, which is still a bit loose but we're still fastening it, and then come out the other side, gone down through the middle of the ring band, back up again, and then if you've got space, I would recommend just going around your ring band one more time, just for that extra security. So down through again, and then come back up just the same way that we just did before. Like so. And then pull it tight. Make sure you try and not get any kinks because that will weaken it. So we've now basically fastened the stone so it sits there without having to support it now. It's still wobbling a bit, but that's what the prongs are going to be for. So now that we're here, we've gone around on this side a couple of times, so what I want to do now is just go back through the bead. It's a little bit snug, but it will go. And then just pull your wire through again gently so it doesn't kink. Might need to just use some pliers to help ease your wire. I like to hold my stone while I do it so that for sure stays in place, like so. So we pull the wire back through, and then to finish off this wire, go back to the other side where it came from, and I basically do the same thing. Go down through the weave, as close as you can get to basically underneath the stone, so it'll hide away, and then back up. Still making sure you don't get kinks and bends in your wire. And then you can go back around again if you got space, or if not, then all you do is cut off your wire with a little bit of tail left, and then hide that away by using some flat nose pliers to press it in, so it's not going to catch on anything, it's not sticking out. Like so. So that is basically the stone attached. Now all that's left to do is sort out the prongs. So now all that's left to do is sort out the prongs. And if you remember, we're leaving one out for this particular one. You can bring it in if you need to use 6, or you can even bring another wire into the ring band if you want to have 8 prongs. So I'm just going to leave this to the side, and what I'm going to do is hold my finger in the ring band and then my thumb on my stone, and then I'm going to start bringing up my prongs to fit where I want them to sit, so to fit into the grooves on my flower. Make sure when you do that, that you do them kind of nice and tight to the stone, so you don't like have a big gap. Press it up. And as you go, make sure that your stone stays where you want it to sit. So you can still adjust it, because you can still adjust the prongs. So make sure it stays nice and straight and even and in the middle. And bring up the rest one at a time. Like so. So now all your prongs are sticking up, fastened nice and tight around your stone. And now what we need to do is go in and start cutting them down, because obviously they're too long. So what you want to do then is really determine how long you want your prongs to be first. Rather start cutting them so they still have some length to them, because you can always keep cutting more off, but you can't obviously add extra wire on top of it. So just to get rid of the long ends, I'm going to cut all the way around like so. So now they're a lot shorter and a lot more manageable. So then you can start determining how long you want your prongs to be. And now obviously on this ring that I made, I just kind of made sure that they came up and just like hugged the stone. You could also make them longer, and maybe even a little bit shorter. It all depends on the stone that you've got and how you want it to look. So I'm going to cut them so they're maybe a couple of millimeters. Same length all the way around. And you can still give this a go and then see how it looks, and then go in and cut a bit more if you think it's still a bit too long, which I think these might be. So they're starting to look more like the right size now, but it's still just a bit too long, I think. So just cut off maybe another millimeter. Try and make sure that they're even all the way around, if that's, obviously unless you're going for a different look. What I usually like to do is I cut one wire, and then I like to kind of rest my wire cutters on there while I then go on to cut the next one. I make sure there's a little bit better chance of they're level and equal, like so. So I think we're going to give that a try. So what you need to do now is get your flat nose pliers out and basically just start bending them in. What you can do, you can probably end up using your fingers to help that as well, because it is quite malleable, the wire, and you can just help press them down with your flat nose plier. Like you can see, I just caught this wire out of position, but you just press it back into position again. As you can see, quite easy to just press them down around the stone into the grooves. Obviously if you have something where you don't have grooves, then you just place them where you want them to sit. And I'm just looking at this and thinking, I think the length is pretty good. So what you can do, this is obviously you can just leave it like this and it'll be nice and tight and finished basically, but I kind of just did this just now just to make sure that my lengths were alright, which they are. So if you want to do just a little final touch, which I kind of like to do when you're looking at prong set rings, because obviously you've cut the tips of your wire, so the very ends of your wire is going to be kind of quite sharp and that. It's not a huge deal because they are like bent over and bent in, but as a little extra security thing, if you have a tool that's called a wire rounder, I recommend you just use that and go in and round off the very tips of your wire. Like so. This is basically just going to make the end all smooth and not scratchy and less likely to maybe catch on anything as well. So it's just a nice little finishing touch. It's not a necessity, it's only if you have it, then you might as well use it. Make sure, go in and feel if you're happy, do a bit more if you need to. Like so, and then that prong is ready. So I'll go in and press that down into position. And then basically I would go back around and do the others, because now I know that the length is good. You can just open them up a little bit, because you just need a little bit of space to get in there. And you just go around with your wire rounder, because there's no point in rounding the wire off and then bending them over to find out that they're too long still and then you need to cut some more off again. You just need to use a wire rounder again. So just find out if they're the right length and then use your wire rounder if you have it. And I'm going to do this all the way around until I have it all in place, and then I'll just show you the last step. So I've now sorted out all the prongs and I pressed them down so they're nice and secure, and all that's left now is this one leftover wire. Obviously if you used all your prongs then you won't have this, but in this case I do. So all you want to do with this is figure out where's the best place, because you basically want to cut it really short, then bend it back and hide it. So you want to find out where's the best place and then go ahead and cut it quite short, just so you have enough to just manipulate it around. And then I just get my flat nose pliers, try and get in there, bend it back around on itself pretty much, and then press the end in. Try and get the end pressed in underneath your bead. So it's just to get rid of the end and so that doesn't catch or scratch on anything. Like so. And then it'll just blend in with the ring anyway. But otherwise, then that's pretty much, that's the ring done. So it's all ready now, and like I showed you previously, it's nice and secure, nothing's going to happen to it. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching.